Hello there, gentle dreamers. Tonight we journey with Renesmee Cullen, the impossible child born between two worlds. Half vampire, half human, loved beyond measure. From her miraculous conception to the young woman she becomes, we'll witness her story unfold through danger and devotion, through growth and grace. She is the bridge between species, the miracle that should never have existed, yet does. So, close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let Renesmee's story carry you softly into rest, where the impossible becomes inevitable, and dreams last forever. The honeymoon unfolds on Isle Esme, like a dream painted in turquoise and white. Bella and Edward exist alone together for the first time, truly alone. No family hovering nearby, no treaty restrictions limiting their proximity, no human world demanding their attention. The island belongs to them completely. Days blur into a rhythm of swimming in crystal water, exploring jungle paths hand in hand, talking for hours about everything and nothing. Edward's skin sparkles freely in the Brazilian sun, where no human eyes can witness his true nature. Bella drinks in the sight of him, this perfect creature who somehow chose her, who married her, who will eventually transform her into his equal. But the nights carry a tension that surprises them both. Edward remains cautious with Bella, hyper-aware of the difference between them, the fragility of her human body against his vampire strength. He has spent months, years, restraining himself, maintaining iron control over every touch, every kiss, every moment of closeness. That control defined their entire relationship. But now they are married, and Bella expects something to change, expects Edward to finally let go of the fear that has kept them apart. When they finally come together, when Edward allows himself to truly touch his wife, his control holds but barely. He is gentle, careful, treating Bella like something infinitely precious and infinitely breakable. But vampire strength cannot be completely suppressed, and in moments of intensity, in those seconds when focus slips, his grip tightens more than he intends. The next morning reveals the evidence. Bruises cover Bella's arms like watercolor paintings in purple and blue. The headboard of the bed is splintered where Edward gripped it, trying to anchor himself, trying to keep from holding Bella too tightly. Feathers from destroyed pillows drift across the floor like strange snow. Edward is horrified. He sees the bruises and hates himself, sees the broken furniture and knows he caused it despite every effort at gentleness. He swears he will not touch Bella again, will not risk hurting her, will not allow his vampire nature to harm his human wife. Bella protests that she's fine, that the bruises do not hurt, that she wants him despite the evidence of his strength. But Edward's self-loathing runs too deep to overcome with simple reassurance. He withdraws emotionally even as they remain physically together on the island. The days that follow establish a new pattern. They swim together, his hand safely holding hers. They explore the island, talk, play chess in the evenings. But at night, Edward maintains distance, sleeping on the couch despite Bella's protests, punishing himself for damage that has already faded. Bella grows frustrated with his refusal, frustrated with the wall between them that feels higher now than before they married. Then one morning, Bella wakes feeling wrong. Her stomach rebels at the smell of breakfast, sending her running to the bathroom. She is exhausted despite sleeping long hours, hungry but unable to eat without nausea. The symptoms feel familiar somehow, something she has read about or heard discussed, but never personally experienced. She tries to dismiss the possibility forming in her mind because it should be impossible. Vampires are frozen, unchanging, their bodies locked in the moment of transformation. They do not create life, but the symptoms persist and intensify. Another morning of sickness, another day of exhaustion. Bella's hand drifts unconsciously to her stomach, feeling for something she should not be able to feel. Edward notices the gesture and goes very still. He can hear her thoughts shifting even though he cannot read her mind directly. Can see her realization forming in the way she touches herself, the way her face shows wonder and terror mixed together. He speaks the word before she does. Pregnant. Bella might be pregnant. His voice carries no joy, only absolute horror. This should not be possible. Male vampires are frozen just as female vampires are. Their bodies ceased all biological processes in the moment of transformation. Edward died in 1918, and his body preserved itself exactly as it was, dead but animated, capable of movement but not of growth or change or creation. Yet something about the transformation process apparently preserved more than anyone realized. The venom that transformed him kept his body in its final living state, including reproductive capability that should have died with the rest of him. Edward calls Carlyle immediately, his voice tight with controlled panic. Carlyle listens as Edward explains the symptoms, processes the information with his medical mind, responds with the careful precision of someone who understands the implications. In over 300 years of vampire existence, Carlyle has never heard of such a pregnancy. The Voltry's extensive records contain no mention of hybrid children born from vampire fathers and human mothers. This is unprecedented territory, unknown and therefore terrifying. Carlyle cannot predict what will happen because no one knows. The pregnancy might kill Bella. The fetus, if it is a fetus, might not survive. They are attempting something that has no precedent, no medical knowledge to guide them, no way to anticipate complications. The only certainty is danger. Edward makes his decision without consulting Bella. They will return to Forks immediately. Carlyle will examine her properly with hospital equipment, determine exactly what is happening inside her body, and then they will terminate the pregnancy. It is the only option that protects Bella's life. He does not ask her opinion, does not discuss alternatives, simply begins packing their belongings and arranging emergency flights back to Washington. Bella says nothing during the packing. She remains silent during the boat ride back to the Brazilian mainland, during the long flight to Seattle, during the drive from the airport to Forks. But inside, something absolute crystallizes into certainty. She's pregnant with Edward's child. Against all biology and logic, She carries something impossible inside her body, and she will not let anyone take it away, not even Edward himself. This might be her only chance to have both things she desperately wants. She always assumed becoming a vampire meant choosing Edward over the possibility of children, meant accepting immortality at the cost of ever being a mother. But this pregnancy, impossible though it is, offers a different path. She can have Edward and a child. She can become a vampire and be a mother. She does not have to choose if she can survive. The danger does not matter. The impossibility does not matter. Only the life growing inside her matters, and she will protect it with everything she has, even if that means protecting it from Edward's fear. They arrive in Forks to find the Cullen house prepared for medical examination. Carlyle has brought equipment from the hospital, set up a makeshift examination room in his study. He is gentle as always, his hands careful and professional as he examines Bella, but his face reveals his concern. The ultrasound shows something that should not exist. A fetus developing rapidly, far more rapidly than any human pregnancy. Based on conception timing, Bella should be perhaps 2 weeks pregnant at most. But the ultrasound shows development equivalent to several months, maybe more. The growth rate is exponential, accelerating, defying every principle of human biology Carlyle spent centuries studying. Edward stands near the window, his hands clenched into fists, his entire body rigid with controlled terror. He can hear something that no one else can hear, something that fills him with wonder and horror in equal measure. He can hear the baby's thoughts, not words exactly, not coherent language, but impressions, emotions, awareness. The fetus is conscious, thinking, far more developed mentally than its physical size would suggest. It recognizes Bella's heartbeat, feels content in her warmth, loves her already with an intensity that seems impossible for something so small and unformed. This knowledge should comfort Edward. His child is aware, capable of emotion, already connected to its mother. But instead, the knowledge terrifies him because it makes everything infinitely more complicated. This is not simply a parasitic growth threatening Bella's life. This is his child, conscious and loving, aware of the mother carrying it. How can he destroy something that already thinks and feels? But how can he allow it to continue growing when that growth is clearly killing Bella day by day? The family gathers to discuss what must happen next, and the house divides immediately along lines no one anticipated. Edward demands Bella terminate the pregnancy, insists it is the only way to save her life. Carlyle agrees reluctantly, seeing no medical possibility of Bella surviving if the fetus continues its rapid growth. Emmett and Jasper support Edward, believing the pregnancy is too dangerous, that Bella's life must take priority over an unknown entity that might not even survive outside her body. But Rosalie moves to stand beside Bella with an expression of fierce determination that surprises everyone. She will not allow anyone to harm this baby. She does not care about the risks or the impossibility. This child, hybrid and unprecedented though it may be, represents everything Rosalie lost when she was transformed at 18. Her dream of motherhood died along with her humanity, her body frozen forever without the ability to create life. This baby is precious beyond measure, and Rosalie will defend it with her immortal life if necessary. Bella herself remains absolutely resolute. She will not terminate the pregnancy. The danger means nothing to her. The impossible growth rate changes nothing. This is her child, and Edward's child. conceived against all odds, growing despite being impossible. She will protect it no matter what anyone says, no matter how much Edward begs or Carlisle warns or the family argues. Her decision is final. Jacob Black returns to Forks during this crisis, drawn by reports from the pack about strange scents around Cullen property. Sam Yulee, the pack alpha, considers the pregnancy an abomination, a violation of the treaty that forbids creating new vampires on Quileute land. A hybrid creature falls into uncertain territory, potentially threatening the tribe's safety. Sam decides the fetus must be destroyed before birth, even if that means killing Bella to accomplish it. Jacob rebels against Sam's order, unable to accept that Bella must die. He breaks from the pack violently, severing the alpha connection that bound him to Sam's commands. Seth Clearwater and Leah Clearwater follow Jacob, choosing Bella's life over pack loyalty. They establish themselves as guards around the Cullen property, werewolves protecting vampires, an alliance that would have seemed impossible weeks earlier. The pregnancy progresses with terrifying speed. Within days, Bella appears months pregnant, her slim frame expanding to accommodate impossibly rapid fetal growth. Her appetite becomes insatiable, but her body rejects normal food almost immediately. She loses weight everywhere except her swollen stomach, her face becoming gaunt, her limbs thinning to fragility. Carlisle monitors her constantly, tracking her deterioration with growing alarm. Her ribs begin to crack under the internal pressure as the fetus grows stronger, its movements powerful enough to break human bones from the inside. The pain is constant and severe, but Bella endures with stubbornness that both impresses and devastates Edward. He watches his wife suffer, watches her body break under the strain of carrying his child, and hates himself for causing this. He did not know vampire reproduction was possible, took no precautions because the medical consensus held it impossible. Now Bella pays the price for that impossible possibility, her human body attempting to sustain something that is killing her from within. The breakthrough comes from Edward listening to the baby's distressed thoughts. When Bella eats normal food, the fetus reacts with discomfort, with hunger that food cannot satisfy. The baby does not want human nutrition, it wants blood. The realization horrifies everyone, confirming their worst fears about the hybrid's vampire nature. But it also offers a potential solution. If blood is what the baby needs, blood is what Bella must consume to keep them both alive. Carlisle brings donated blood from the hospital, stored in medical pouches, unappetizing but potentially life-saving. Bella's human revulsion at drinking blood wars with her determination to feed her child whatever it needs. She tries to drink directly from the pouch and gags, her stomach rejecting the taste and texture immediately. Emmett suggests using a straw, making it easier to swallow without tasting fully. The method works. Bella drinks blood through a straw, her eyes closed, her mind focused on the baby rather than on what she is consuming. The effect is immediate and dramatic. The fetus calms, its violent movements gentling, its distress fading completely. Bella's body responds as well, gaining strength from the blood in ways normal food could not provide. Her color improves, her energy increases, her bones stop breaking quite so frequently. She is still deteriorating, still dying slowly, but the blood buys precious time. Time for the baby to develop. Time for them to prepare for the inevitable catastrophic birth. Time for Bella to hold on just a little longer, to survive just one more day, to protect her impossible child until it can survive outside her failing body. The birth begins without warning on a September afternoon, when Bella's spine simply snaps under the impossible strain. She's sitting on the couch, Jacob beside her, telling a story about the reservation, when her back breaks with a sound like a gunshot echoing through the room. Her scream cuts off almost immediately as paralysis floods through her lower body. She cannot feel her legs, cannot move anything below her waist. Her eyes go wide with shock and pain and absolute terror. Edward moves with vampire speed, catching Bella before she collapses completely. Carlyle is already shouting instructions, his centuries of medical training taking over despite the unprecedented nature of this emergency. They need to extract the baby immediately, right now, before Bella's body fails entirely. Rosalie helps move Bella to the table they prepared weeks ago for this moment. The makeshift operating surface covered in sterile sheets that now seem pitifully inadequate. Carlyle works with surgical precision, his hands steady despite the chaos surrounding them. He makes the initial incision across Bella's abdomen, cutting through skin and muscle with practiced efficiency. But when his scalpel reaches the amniotic sac, when the blade touches the membrane protecting the baby, it simply stops. The membrane will not cut. It resists the sharpest surgical steel as though it were made of vampire skin itself, impenetrable and impossible. Carlyle tries different angles, applies more pressure, switches to different instruments. Nothing works. The membrane that protects the baby will not yield to human tools. Edward hears Carlyle's frantic thoughts, understands the problem immediately, and knows what must be done. If scalpels cannot penetrate the membrane, vampire teeth can. He moves to Bella's side, his face twisted with revulsion at what he must do, but his determination absolute. He bends over her exposed abdomen, places his mouth against the strange membrane, and bites down hard. His teeth tear through the protective sac that no blade could penetrate. The membrane splits under his assault, and fluid rushes out, clear and tinged with blood. Edward reaches into the opening he created, his hands finding the baby's tiny form, and lifts her free from Bella's dying body. She is impossibly small, covered in blood and vernix, but her eyes are already open and aware. Her skin has a strange quality, slightly translucent, warmer than vampire skin, but cooler than human. Her hair is thick and bronze, matching Edward's human color, already curling despite being wet. She looks at Edward with eyes that show far too much awareness for a newborn. Eyes that seem to recognize him, to know him already. He places the baby on Bella's chest for one brief moment, allowing mother and daughter to meet before the end comes. Bella's hands come up weakly, trembling as they touch her child's face. She whispers something, a name perhaps, Renesmee, but her voice is too faint to hear clearly over the chaos. The baby makes a soft sound, not quite a cry, almost like a coo of contentment. Her tiny hand touches Bella's cheek, and suddenly, Bella sees images, memories, awareness flooding into her mind. The baby is showing her things, communicating already, sharing her love through touch. Then everything goes catastrophically wrong. The placenta detaches violently, and blood begins pouring from Bella's uterus in amounts that signal she is dying right now. Her damaged spine, her shattered pelvis, the trauma of the emergency surgery, all contribute to hemorrhaging that Carlyle cannot control with his hands or instruments. He works frantically, but there is too much damage, too many sources of bleeding. too little time remaining. Bella's heart rate spikes frantically, trying desperately to compensate for the massive blood loss. Her face goes pale, then grey, then nearly white. Her lips lose all colour. Rosalie takes the baby quickly, wrapping her in soft blankets, moving away from the table to give the others room to work. The infant watches everything with those impossibly aware eyes, silent but observant, seeing her mother die even as she herself draws her first breaths. She does not cry or fuss, simply watches with an intensity that seems far beyond newborn capability. Bella's heart stutters, skips beats, races irregularly as it tries and fails to maintain circulation. Carlyle shouts for Edward to inject the venom now, immediately. There are only seconds left. Edward already has syringes prepared, loaded with his own venom extracted painfully over the previous weeks. His hands shake as he positions the first needle directly over Bella's heart. He has fought against her transformation for years, has never wanted this for her, has believed she should remain human and alive rather than become vampire. But human Bella is dying, her heart failing, her brain beginning to starve for oxygen. He has perhaps 10 seconds to act or lose her forever. He plunges the needle into her chest, directly into her heart muscle, and injects the venom in one smooth motion. Then he grabs more syringes and begins injecting systematically throughout her body, her neck on both sides to reach her brain quickly, her arms at the major vessels that will carry venom through her system, her legs, though he fears the broken spine might impede circulation there. He empties every syringe he prepared, flooding her dying system with venom, trying desperately to spread the transformation catalyst before her heart stops completely. Bella's heart stops. The monitor flatlines with his terrible steady tone filling the room. She is clinically dead. No heartbeat, no breathing, no response to stimuli. Jacob, who has been standing frozen in horror, suddenly lunges forward. He begins chest compressions, his wolf strength allowing him to press hard enough to actually circulate blood through a dead woman's cardiovascular system. He counts aloud, 30 compressions, then pauses for Edward to breathe into Bella's mouth, forcing air into lungs that no longer function on their own. They work together, vampire and werewolf, natural enemies united in desperate attempt to save the woman they both love. Edward understands what Jacob is doing, why the compressions matter, even though Bella's heart has stopped. The venom needs to circulate, needs to reach every cell in her body to begin the transformation. A stopped heart will not distribute it effectively. If they can manually circulate her blood, can force it through her vessels with compressions, they can help spread the venom before her blood congeals, and the opportunity is lost forever. After several minutes of this desperate resuscitation, Edward detects the change he was praying for. The venom is spreading, taking over the circulation function, beginning its work of transformation. He tells Jacob to stop, that continuing compressions might actually interfere with the process now. Jacob backs away, his hands covered in Bella's blood, his face absolutely devastated. He's done everything possible. Now Bella's fate rests with the venom, with a 3-day transformation that will either save her or confirm her death. The family moves Bella to a bed, cleaning the blood from her body gently, dressing her in comfortable clothes, arranging her as peacefully as possible for the ordeal ahead. She lies perfectly still, no breath moving her chest, no heartbeat pulsing in her veins. appearing dead to any normal observation. But Edward can hear something beneath the silence, a faint sound of venom moving through her veins like acid, beginning its work of transformation. The fire has begun inside her. She will burn for 3 days while her body dies and is reborn as something new. Rosalie sits in a corner, holding the baby who caused all this death and transformation, rocking her gently. The infant has already fed, accepting blood from a bottle without hesitation, her hybrid nature demanding vampire nutrition from her first hours. She is alert and aware, her eyes tracking movement around the room, her tiny hand gripping Rosalie's finger with surprising strength. She does not sleep as human newborns do, does not cry for comfort or food. She simply watches and learns and grows, because already, just hours after birth, Renesmee is noticeably larger. Her fingers are longer, her face slightly less compressed. The growth that nearly killed Bella has not stopped with birth. It continues, accelerating, pushing this hybrid child toward development at a pace that terrifies everyone who witnesses it. She is growing before their eyes, changing hour by hour, developing in ways that should take weeks or months, happening in mere hours. Jacob cannot leave. He stands near Rosalie, watching the baby with an expression of wonder and confusion, and something deeper he does not understand yet. When he first saw Renesmee, when Edward lifted her from Bella's dying body, something in Jacob's world shifted fundamentally. The imprint happened in that instant, the supernatural bond that connects shapeshifter to another person, absolute and unbreakable. His entire existence has reoriented around this infant, this impossible hybrid, who is somehow the most important thing in his universe now. The bond does not feel romantic or inappropriate, simply feels like gravity has reversed and she is his center now. He will protect her with his life, will be whatever she needs him to be, cannot imagine existing without ensuring her safety and happiness. Edward divides his time between Bella's bedside and watching his daughter with a mixture of love and guilt and fear. This child, this perfect tiny person, cost Bella everything. She is dying in fire now because of Renesmee's existence. But Renesmee herself is innocent, did not choose to be conceived or born, did not ask to be impossible. She is simply his daughter, already loved beyond measure, already the most precious thing in his immortal existence after Bella herself. He holds her carefully, marveling at her warmth, her awareness, her apparent contentment in his arms. She looks at him and he sees intelligence that should not exist in a newborn, understanding that seems to transcend her hours of life. The 3-day vigil begins. Bella burns silently on her bed while the family cares for Renesmee, this new life born from death, this miracle wrapped in tragedy. She continues growing, continues changing, her awareness expanding as rapidly as her body develops. By the end of the first day, she appears weeks old rather than hours. She watches everything, absorbs information, learns at a pace that seems impossible even knowing her hybrid nature. The family takes turns holding her, bonding with this new member, this unprecedented being. Carlyle examines her carefully, documenting her development, trying to understand what she is and what she might become. Esme holds her with gentle joy, already loving her as a grandmother. Emmett is cautious, but fascinated. Jasper keeps distance, uncomfortable with the blood scent, but curious about this creature that should not exist. Alice watches with interest, her visions clearing slightly now that Renesmee exists outside Bella's body. And on the bed, Bella burns in silence, unaware of the daughter she birthed, unconscious of the family caring for her child, trapped in transformation fire that will remake her entirely. 3 days of burning before she can wake and meet her daughter properly, before she can hold Renesmee with vampire strength and control, before they can truly become mother and child. 3 days while Renesmee grows and changes and waits for her mother to return from death as something new, something immortal, something finally strong enough to keep her safe forever. Bella's eyes open on the 3rd day to a world transformed. Everything is sharper, clearer, more detailed than she ever imagined possible. The ceiling above her is not simply white plaster, but a universe of texture. Every microscopic imperfection visible, every paint stroke distinct, every molecule of dust floating in the air rendered in perfect clarity. She can see individual dust motes spinning in currents too subtle for human perception, can trace their trajectories, can understand the physics of their movement simply by watching. She turns her head and sees Edward, truly sees him for the first time. His face is a masterwork of impossible perfection, every feature carved with precision beyond human capability. She can count individual pores in his marble skin, can see each eyelash, can trace the exact pattern of gold and amber and honey that creates the topaz color of his eyes. His hair catches light in 1,000 different ways, each strand a slightly different shade of bronze and copper and gold. He is beautiful beyond human comprehension, and she understands now why she was drawn to him so completely, when her human eyes could barely process a fraction of what she sees now. Edward's face transforms when he realizes she is awake, his eyes widening, his lips parting slightly. He whispers her name and she hears a symphony of tones and harmonics that her new hearing distinguishes and appreciates. She tries to respond, but finds she does not remember how to make her voice work, does not know if she needs to breathe first, or if sound can come without air. She sits up, and the movement happens before she consciously decides to move. Her body responds to intention instantly, perfectly, without the delay or clumsiness that characterized her entire human existence. She is simply sitting, her back straight, her balance perfect, her muscles responding with precision she never imagined possible. She looks down at her hands, turning them over, watching light play across skin that looks like hers but is not really. Her skin is flawless, smooth and cool and hard, every imperfection erased by transformation. But even as she marvels at her new body, another sensation dominates her awareness. Her throat burns. It is not the fire of transformation, not the agony of cells dying and being reborn. This is different, focused, demanding. Her throat feels like she has swallowed acid and broken glass, like she is dying of thirst in the desert, like she needs something desperately and immediately. The need has claws and teeth, digging into her consciousness, demanding attention, demanding satisfaction. Edward sees the change in her expression, sees her hand move unconsciously to her throat. He explains what she is feeling, names it as thirst, warns her that it will be overwhelming at first, that newborn vampires are consumed by blood hunger. But even as he speaks, he notices something unusual. Bella is not moving, not lunging toward the heartbeat he can hear downstairs, not losing control despite the thirst that should be driving her to madness. She sits perfectly still, her hand at her throat, her face showing discomfort, but not the wild desperation that characterizes newborn vampires. Bella realizes she is making a choice. The thirst is terrible, demanding, almost irresistible. But it is not irresistible. She can feel the need, can acknowledge its urgency, can experience its terrible intensity without surrendering to it completely. Some part of her human self-control has survived the transformation, amplified perhaps by whatever quality made her mind resistant to Edward's telepathy. Her mental shield protects her not just from external mental attacks, but also from internal overwhelming instinct. She is aware of the burning need, aware of the heartbeat calling to her from another room, but also aware that losing control could mean harming someone she loves. Edward is amazed. He has never seen a newborn with this kind of control, this ability to think clearly despite overwhelming thirst. Newborns are typically slaves to their hunger for months, sometimes years, unable to be near humans without attacking immediately. But Bella simply accepts this control as her new reality, this ability to choose despite desire, to maintain herself despite instinct. She asks Edward if she can meet her daughter now, if she can see Renesmee with her new eyes. Edward hesitates. The baby's heartbeat is human, or close enough to human that it will trigger Bella's hunting instincts powerfully. Her blood will smell sweet and appealing, will call to the thirst in ways that even Bella's extraordinary control might not resist. He suggests they hunt first, that they ease the burning in her throat before she meets Renesmee. Bella agrees reluctantly, understanding the wisdom of his caution, even as she aches to see her daughter, to hold the child she died to bring into the world. They leave through the back of the house, Edward leading her into the forest at speeds that would have been impossible for human Bella to match. But vampire Bella moves effortlessly, her body responding to terrain instinctively, feet finding purchase on uneven ground, branches bending out of her way. Running feels like flying. She has been clumsy her entire human life, has stumbled and fallen and injured herself through simple movement. But this body moves with liquid grace, with precision that requires no thought or effort. She catches the scent of deer without meaning to, her body stopping instantly, every sense focusing on the source. The scent carries information she did not know smell could convey. The number of animals, their health, their location. Her body wants to hunt, wants to chase and catch and drink. The thirst surges stronger now that prey is near. But she maintains control, moves toward the herd silently, takes down the largest doe effortlessly. The blood that flows into her mouth is warm and rich and satisfying, the burning in her throat easing from agony to discomfort. She drinks until the deer is drained, then takes down 2 more, learning with each kill, understanding how to satisfy thirst without waste. Finally, the burning quiets to a level she can manage. Edward asks if she is ready to meet Renesmee. Bella considers honestly, testing herself, feeling for the edges of her control. The thirst is present but manageable. Her love for Renesmee is absolute. She's ready. They return to the house, and Rosalie meets them at the door, holding Renesmee protectively. The baby has grown noticeably in the 3 days of Bella's transformation, developing at the same impossible rate she showed in the womb. She is beautiful, with Edward's bronze hair and Bella's brown eyes, with skin that shows subtle translucence. She looks at Bella with recognition, with love, with understanding that this vampire is her mother. Bella approaches slowly, carefully, every muscle under tight control. The baby's scent is sweet, appealing, triggering the thirst in ways that animal blood could not. But Bella's love is stronger than the thirst, her determination to protect overriding her instinct to feed. She reaches out tentatively and touches Renesmee's face with one finger. The baby's skin is warm, softer than anything Bella has ever felt. Renesmee reaches up, her tiny hand pressing against Bella's cheek, and suddenly Bella sees images, memories, visions that are not her own. She sees her own face pale and dying from an infant's perspective during those moments after birth. She sees Edward's face, worried and loving. She sees the 3 days of transformation from outside, her body lying still while the family waited. Renesmee is showing her memories, sharing her experiences through touch, communicating in a way that transcends language. Bella understands then that her daughter is not simply hybrid, not merely half vampire and half human. Renesmee is something entirely new, gifted with abilities that neither species possesses alone. She can share her thoughts through touch, can show others what she thinks and feels and remembers with perfect clarity. The realization fills Bella with wonder and protectiveness and fierce love that overwhelms even vampire intensity. The family gathers around them, the Cullens complete now with Bella as full member rather than fragile human guest. Carlyle explains what they have learned about Renesmee in the 3 days. She grows rapidly, noticeably larger each day. She feeds on blood primarily, but can consume human food as well. She sleeps occasionally, but not as much as human babies. Her awareness and intelligence seem far beyond her physical age. She's developing faster than any human child, but they do not know when or if her growth will slow or stop. Bella holds her daughter for the first time, with her full vampire strength carefully controlled, feeling Renesmee's warmth, her heartbeat against Bella's chest. The thirst is present, will always be present, but is overshadowed by emotions more powerful than hunger. She has survived transformation, has gained everything she wanted, has become something more than she imagined. She is vampire, mother, wife, member of a family that chose her. Jacob hovers nearby, unable to stay away from Renesmee. Bella notices his constant presence, the way his eyes never leave the baby, the protective stance he maintains unconsciously. Edward explains quietly that Jacob imprinted on Renesmee during those first moments after birth. The supernatural bond connects him to her absolutely, unbreakably. Bella's initial fury at this revelation softens when she sees how Jacob looks at Renesmee, not with inappropriate desire, but with devotion that will shape itself to whatever Renesmee needs. Right now, she needs a protector, a guardian, someone who will die before allowing harm to reach her. Jacob will be that person, will be whatever she needs as she grows. The days following Bella's awakening establish new rhythms. She learns the particulars of vampire existence, the small details that define immortal life. She discovers she casts a reflection that mirrors work perfectly despite old myths. She learns that crosses and garlic have no effect on her whatsoever, that traditional vampire weaknesses are fiction. Her control remains extraordinary, unprecedented for a newborn. She can stand at the window and watch humans pass without feeling overwhelming urge to hunt. Renesmee continues her rapid development. Within a week, she appears a month old, sitting up with support, making sounds that seem almost like words. Within 2 weeks, she is crawling, exploring her environment with curious intensity. Her gift manifests more clearly as well. She can show anyone her thoughts by touching their skin, projecting images and memories directly into minds. The communication is more efficient than language, more complete than words could ever be. Bella spends hours with her daughter, learning Renesmee's unique nature, understanding how hybrid biology creates something entirely unprecedented. Renesmee has a heartbeat, warm blood, the ability to sleep and eat human food. But she also has vampire hardness to her skin, vampire strength for her size, vampire beauty that increases daily. She is the best of both species, the miracle that Bella's sacrifice made possible. Mother and daughter bond deeply, Renesmee showing Bella her thoughts and feelings, Bella responding with gentle words and careful touches, both learning to communicate across the boundary between vampire and hybrid, between immortal and something entirely new. The threat arrives through Alice's vision on a cold November morning. She gasps suddenly during breakfast, her eyes going blank and distant, her body going rigid as the future unfolds before her inner sight. When she returns to the present, her face is absolutely pale, her topaz eyes wide with terror. The Volturi are coming, not just a few guards on a routine visit, but the entire force. Arrow, Caius, Marcus, Jane, Alec, every member of the guard, dozens of vampires descending on forks with singular purpose, destruction. Alice saw what triggered their decision. Irina, from the Denali Coven, still grieving her mate Laurent's death at the hands of the Quileute wolves, saw Renesmee from a distance during a visit to Washington. She saw a child with bronze curls playing in the snow, moving with inhuman speed and grace, displaying characteristics that seemed unmistakably vampire. From her distant vantage point, Irina made a terrible assumption. She believed she was witnessing an immortal child, a human child transformed into a vampire, one of the most forbidden creations in vampire lore. Immortal children are absolutely forbidden under the most ancient vampire laws, their creation punishable by death for everyone involved in making them and everyone who knew of their existence. The law exists because immortal children are catastrophically dangerous. A human child transformed into vampire retains the emotional development and impulse control of whatever age they were changed. A 5-year-old vampire has the tantrums of a 5-year-old human, but the strength to level buildings and massacre entire towns. They cannot be taught restraint, cannot understand consequences, cannot control their thirst or their temper. Historically, immortal children reveal the vampire world to humans repeatedly, causing massacres that threaten to expose all vampires to human awareness and retaliation. The Volturi destroyed every immortal child they found, along with their creators, along with anyone who knew of the child's existence and failed to report it. The law is absolute, the punishment swift and merciless. Irina, believing she witnessed a Cullen immortal child, went directly to Volterra to report what she saw. Aro received her testimony, saw her memories through his gift of reading every thought a person has ever had, and made his decision immediately. The Cullens must be destroyed for this violation. But Irina is wrong. Renesmee is not an immortal child. She was born, not bitten. She's growing and developing, not frozen forever at one age. She has the self-control and awareness that comes from hybrid biology, not the dangerous impulsivity of a transformed human child. She is something unprecedented, something the Volturi have never encountered before. But Irina did not get close enough to realize these crucial differences. She saw vampire characteristics in her child and reported a law violation without investigating further. Carlyle immediately understands the magnitude of the threat. The Volturi will not listen to explanations given from a distance. They will arrive expecting to find an immortal child and will destroy the Cullens when they do. The only way to survive is to provide undeniable proof that Renesmee is not what Irina reported, to gather enough witnesses that the Volturi cannot simply massacre everyone and claim justice. They need vampires from around the world to stand with them, to see Renesmee directly, to testify that she is not an immortal child, but something else entirely. The gathering begins immediately. Carlyle sends messages to every vampire friend and ally accumulated over 3 centuries of existence. He contacts the Denali Coven first, explaining the situation to Tanya, Kate, Carmen, and Eleazar. They arrive within days, devastated by their sister Irina's mistake, but committed to standing with the Cullens. When they meet Renesmee, when they see her growth and development, when she shows them her thoughts through her gift, they understand immediately that she is not an immortal child. Tanya weeps with relief that her sister was simply mistaken rather than malicious. Other covens arrive steadily throughout November and early December. The Amazon Coven comes from the rainforest, 3 ancient female vampires who have lived together for centuries. Safrina possesses the gift of creating visual illusions, showing people whatever she wants them to see. Senna and Kachiri are gifted fighters. They meet Renesmee with fascination, having never heard of such a hybrid existing. The Irish Coven arrives from across the Atlantic. Siobhan, Liam and Maggie have maintained friendship with Carlyle for over a century. Maggie possesses the ability to sense lies, making her testimony particularly valuable since she can confirm that everything the Cullens say about Renesmee is absolutely true. The Egyptian Coven comes reluctantly. Amun, the oldest among them, fears drawing Volturi attention and initially refuses Carlyle's request. But Benjamin, the youngest of their coven, possesses rare elemental gifts that make him valuable as a potential witness. His maid Tia and Amun's maid Kebi convince Amun to come despite his fears. When Benjamin meets Renesmee, when he sees her showing thoughts through touch, he is fascinated by this new form of life and commits to staying regardless of Amun's objections. The Romanian Coven sends their only 2 survivors, Vladimir and Stefan. They ruled the vampire world for centuries before the Volturi overthrew them over 1,000 years ago. They harbor deep hatred for Aro, Caius and Marcus, welcome any opportunity to stand against them, care little about whether Renesmee is truly innocent. They see the gathering as potential chance to witness Volturi defeat, or at least discomfort. Their presence is uncomfortable for everyone, but their testimony will carry weight, given their ancient knowledge of vampire lore. Nomadic vampires arrive individually or in small groups. Garrett, a patriot from the American Revolutionary War, comes out of friendship with Carlyle and develops immediate fascination with Kate from the Denali Coven. Charlotte and Peter arrive from the south, former members of newborn armies who now live peacefully. Mary and Randall come separately, each agreeing to witness because they trust Carlyle's judgment and integrity. Each witness follows the same pattern. They arrive suspicious or fearful or curious. They meet Renesmee carefully, ready to flee if she displays immortal child characteristics. But Renesmee wins them over within moments. She approaches each new vampire confidently, reaches up to touch their face, and shows them her story. They see her birth from her own infant memories. They see her growth day by day, the clear evidence that she is developing rather than remaining frozen. They see her thoughts, complex and mature beyond her physical age. They see her relationship with her family, with Jacob, with humans she encounters, and they understand immediately that she is not an immortal child, but something entirely new. The Cullen house fills with vampires, dozens of them, more than have gathered in one place peacefully, perhaps ever. Bella discovers her shield can extend beyond herself during this time. Kate from the Denali Coven possesses the ability to generate electrical current through her skin, making contact with her painfully shocking. She offers to help Bella learn to project her shield outward by using her electricity as motivation. Through intense practice, Bella learns to push her shield beyond her own body, to encompass others within its protection. The skill is crucial because the Volturi's greatest weapons are Jane and Alec, twins gifted with devastating mental attacks. Jane creates the illusion of burning pain. Alec removes all senses, leaving victims blind, deaf, and helpless. Bella's shield can block both attacks completely if she can maintain it over enough people. Renesmee continues growing throughout the gathering, developing rapidly, appearing months older each week. By December she looks perhaps 2 or 3 years old, speaking in complete sentences, running and playing with disturbing grace. Every witness documents her growth, memorizing her size and abilities each day, so they can testify credibly about her development. Her gift strengthens as well. She can show multiple people simultaneously now, can project more complex thoughts and memories, can communicate abstract concepts through imagery. Jacob's pack supports the Cullens throughout this crisis. The werewolves maintain patrols around the property, ready to defend Renesmee against any threat. Jacob stays closest, his imprint bond making it physically painful to be separated from her for long periods. Renesmee adores him, calling him her Jacob, climbing on him, showing him her thoughts constantly. The bond between them deepens daily, Jacob shaped entirely by whatever Renesmee needs from him. The waiting is terrible. They know approximately when the Volturi will arrive, know they are crossing continents with deliberate slowness, gathering their full force, preparing for confrontation they expect to be swift execution. Alice watches the future obsessively, tracking the Volturi's approach, searching for any sign of how the confrontation will end. Her visions show possibilities branching and shifting. In some futures, the Cullens survive. In others, everyone dies. The outcome depends on factors too complex to predict with certainty. Bella trains relentlessly with her shield, pushing it farther, maintaining it longer, learning to include more people within its protective barrier. Her control and strength grow daily. She is still technically a newborn, possessing the enhanced strength that characterizes the first year of vampire life. Combined with her shield and her extraordinary self-control, she becomes the family's best defense against Volturi gifts. December brings snow to Forks, blanketing the forest in white, creating the landscape where the confrontation will occur. The witnesses settle into an uneasy community. Vampires from around the world, coexisting peacefully for the first time in memory. They share stories, compare abilities, form alliances. Some, like Garrett and Kate, develop romantic connections. Others, like the Romanians, remain isolated and hostile to everyone except the Cullens themselves. But all commit to staying, to standing as witnesses when the Volturi arrive. to testifying that Renesmee is not an immortal child. The family exists in state of suspended tension, preparing for confrontation that will determine whether they survive or perish. Bella spends every possible moment with Renesmee, memorizing her daughter's face, her voice, her thoughts. Edward composes lullabies for his daughter, music that expresses everything he cannot say about love and fear and desperate hope. Carlyle reviews vampire lore obsessively, searching for precedents or loopholes. Esme ensures everyone is fed and comfortable, maintaining household peace through maternal determination. Rosalie remains Renesmee's fierce guardian, ready to die protecting the child she loves as her own. Emmett and Jasper prepare for potential battle, training and strategizing despite hope that violence can be avoided. Alice watches the future shift and change with each small decision, each new factor altering outcomes too complex to predict. And through it all, Renesmee grows and learns and loves, unaware that her very existence has brought danger to everyone she holds dear, innocent of the confrontation approaching like winter storm, simply being herself, while the world prepares to judge whether she deserves to live. The Cullens had a tradition, Edward explained. When the thunderstorms came rolling in from the Pacific, when lightning split the sky and thunder shook the ground, they played baseball. Real baseball, the kind that required superhuman strength and speed, the kind that could only be played when the sound of bat-meeting ball could be masked by nature's fury. Alice had seen it in one of her visions. A break in the rain, a massive storm system moving in from the ocean, the perfect conditions for a game. And Edward wanted Bella there, wanted her to see his world, his family, the truth of what they were when they didn't have to pretend to be human. The day arrived with ominous promise. The sky was dark, heavy with clouds that roiled and churned like a living thing. The air felt charged, electric, waiting for the storm to break. Bella drove to the Cullen house in the late afternoon, her heart pounding with anticipation and something that might have been fear. Edward met her at the door, took her hand, led her to his Volvo. The drive to the clearing took 20 minutes, winding through dense forest on roads that barely deserved the name. When they finally stopped, Bella found herself in a massive open space, a meadow surrounded by towering trees, the grass trampled flat by years of use. The rest of the Cullens were already there, Rosalie and Emmett stretching impossibly, their movements fluid and precise. Jasper standing very still, his eyes distant. Alice practically bouncing with excitement, her pixie face alight with joy. Esme and Carlyle hand in hand, watching their children with expressions of parental fondness. They welcomed Bella warmly, or most of them did. Rosalie's smile was tight, forced, her golden eyes assessing and cold. But the others made her feel included, asked if she was ready to see what vampires could really do when they didn't have to hold back. The first crack of thunder rolled across the sky. Alice grinned. It's time. What followed was the most incredible display Bella had ever witnessed. The Cullens moved like liquid lightning, faster than her eyes could track. Carlyle pitched, his arm a blur, the ball leaving his hand with a crack like a gunshot. Rosalie swung, and the sound of bat-meeting ball was like an explosion, echoing across the clearing even as thunder crashed overhead. Rosalie ran, her feet barely touching the ground, moving so fast she seemed to teleport between bases. Emmett caught the ball in the outfield, his throw back to home plate a streak of white. Edward played outfield too, running with inhuman grace, leaping impossible heights to catch balls that should have been uncatchable. Bella sat beside Esme, who kept score with practiced ease. Esme explained the rules, pointed out particularly impressive plays, treated Bella like family, like she belonged there in the clearing with these beautiful, impossible creatures. Alice was up to bat when everything changed. She froze mid-swing, her face going blank, her eyes unfocused. The others stopped immediately, turned to look at her, their expressions shifting from playful to alert in an instant. "What is it, Alice?" Edward's voice was sharp. "3 of them. Come in this way." Her voice was distant, still caught in whatever vision she was seeing. "I didn't see them soon enough. They traveled differently than we expected." "How long?" Carlyle's voice remained calm, but his body had gone tense. "Less than 5 minutes. They heard us playing. They're curious." Bella felt Edward beside her instantly, though she hadn't seen him move. His hand was on her arm, his grip gentle but firm. "We need to get you out of here." But it was already too late. The wind shifted, blowing toward them from the forest edge, and 3 figures emerged from the trees. They moved differently than the Cullens. Where Edward's family was graceful and controlled, these 3 were wild, predatory, moving with the fluid confidence of apex hunters. 2 men and a woman, all of them beautiful in the same impossible way, but their beauty was sharper somehow, more dangerous. The one in front was blonde, his hair pulled back in a ponytail, his clothes casual and worn. He smiled as he approached, his hands spread in a gesture of peace. Behind him, a dark-haired man moved with coiled readiness, his eyes scanning the clearing, assessing threats. And beside him was a woman with flaming red hair and a feral smile, her gaze predatory and amused. "Hello," the blonde one said, his voice pleasant and cultured. "We heard your game from quite a distance. We thought we'd come see who was in the area." Carlyle stepped forward, positioning himself between the newcomers and his family. "We're just playing a friendly game. I'm Carlyle Cullen. These are my family. I'm Laurent." The blonde gestured to his companions. "This is Victoria and James. We're traveling north, just passing through. Where are you headed?" Carlyle's tone remained friendly, but Bella could see the tension in his shoulders. "Up toward Alaska, eventually. We heard rumors of others like us in the area. That would be you, I assume." "Yes, we have a permanent residence here." Carlyle chose his words carefully. "We're quite fond of the area." "Permanent?" Laurent's eyebrows rose. "That must take quite a bit of control. We've found a sustainable lifestyle." Carlyle's meaning was clear. "We don't hunt humans." Laurent's expression shifted to something like respect. "That's quite impressive. We're more traditional in our feeding habits, but we respect your choice." It was James who moved first, taking a step forward, his nostrils flaring slightly, his head tilted, and his eyes fixed on something behind Carlyle, on Bella. The wind had shifted again, just a slight change in direction, but enough to carry Bella's scent directly toward the 3 nomads. James's expression transformed. His eyes went completely black, his lips pulled back slightly from his teeth, and his entire body tense like a predator about to spring. The smile that crossed his face was terrifying in its anticipation. Edward moved so fast Bella barely saw it. One moment he was beside her, the next he was in front of her, crouched low, a growl rumbling from his chest that didn't sound even remotely human. The other Cullens shifted instantly, forming a protective barrier between Bella and the nomads. She's human. James's voice was soft, almost wondering. You brought a human to your game. She's with us, Edward said, his voice hard and dangerous. She's not your concern. James took another step forward, and the Cullens moved as one, matching his advance. The clearing had transformed from a playful gathering to a standoff, tension crackling in the air more powerfully than the approaching storm. We don't hunt in your territory, James said, but his eyes never left Bella. His gaze was hungry, calculating, like a cat had spotted a mouse. We respect the treaty, but surely you're not claiming hunting rights over the entire Olympic Peninsula. She's not prey, Carlyle said firmly. She's family. Laurent moved forward, placing a hand on James's shoulder. We should go. We didn't come here to cause trouble. But James shrugged off the hand, his attention fixed entirely on Bella now. There was something in his expression, something beyond simple hunger, interest, challenge, the look of someone who'd found a game worth playing. Victoria moved beside James, her hand touching his arm. Come on, she said softly. There's plenty of prey elsewhere. For a long moment, James didn't move. He stared at Bella with those bottomless black eyes, and Bella stared back, unable to look away, frozen by a terror more primal than anything she'd ever experienced. This was a predator, a real predator, and she was prey. Then James smiled, a slow, terrible smile that promised things Bella didn't want to imagine. He stepped back, raised his hands in mock surrender. Of course. We respect your territory. It was good to meet you, Carlyle. The three nomads melted back into the forest, Victoria and Laurent disappearing immediately. But James paused at the tree line, looked back one more time. His eyes found Bella's across the clearing, and his smile widened before he vanished into the shadows. The moment they were gone, Edward turned to Bella, his hands on her shoulders. We need to leave. Now. What just happened? Bella's voice shook. James is a tracker, Alice said, her face pale and frightened. Hunting is his obsession, and you just became his prey. The drive back to the Cullen house was frantic, Edward pushing the Volvo to speeds that should have been impossible on the narrow forest roads. Behind them, the rest of the family followed in Emmett's jeep. The storm broke overhead, rain lashing down in sheets, lightning turning the world white. At the house, they gathered in the living room, their expressions grim. Alice sat very still, her eyes unfocused, watching the future shift and change with every decision they considered. He's tracking her, Alice said finally. I can see him following her scent, unraveling where she's been, where she lives. He knows about Charlie. We leave, Edward said immediately. All of us. We take Bella and run. That won't work, Jasper said quietly. He'll follow. And now it's not just about hunger. It's become a game for him. The challenge of taking prey from another coven. Then we fight, Emmett said, cracking his knuckles. We end this. We can't risk Bella in a fight, Carlyle said. James is experienced, dangerous. If anything went wrong. The discussion continued, plans forming and dissolving as Alice watched the outcomes in her mind. Finally, a strategy emerged. They would split up. Edward, Alice and Jasper would take Bella away, lead James on a false trail. Carlyle, Esme, Emmett and Rosalie would stay, make it seem like they were hiding Bella locally, confuse the tracker. Bella packed quickly at Charlie's house, throwing clothes into a bag, while Edward watched from her window. Charlie was told she was going back to Phoenix, that she'd had a fight with Edward, that she needed space. The lie tasted bitter, but it was necessary. Within hours, they were gone, racing south through the storm-dark night, trying to stay ahead of a predator who'd made Bella his prey. And somewhere behind them, Bella knew James was following, patient, persistent, waiting for his moment. The game had begun. The flight to Phoenix should have felt like escape. 300 miles per hour, racing away from danger, from the hunter who'd made Bella his prey. But safety was an illusion. Alice's vision showed that much. James was still coming, still tracking, his mind focused with singular intensity on the game Bella had unwittingly become part of. They stayed in a hotel near the Phoenix airport, a generic building that could have been anywhere. Alice and Jasper took turns watching, one always alert while the other rested. Edward never left Bella's side, his body a barrier between her and the door, his eyes constantly scanning for threats that might materialize from nowhere. Alice sat cross-legged on the bed, her eyes distant, watching futures branch and multiply with each passing moment. James was in Seattle, she reported, then Portland, then California. He was moving erratically, following false trails the Cullens had laid, doubling back, searching. But he was getting closer, always closer. Bella's phone rang on the second day. She didn't recognize the number, but something made her answer. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the desperate hope that this nightmare might somehow resolve itself. "Hello, Bella." The voice was smooth, cultured, tinged with amusement. Laurent had sounded friendly. This voice was friendly too, but underneath was something else. Something that made her blood run cold. "James," she whispered. Edward was beside her instantly, his hand reaching for the phone. But Bella pulled away, some instinct telling her this was important, that she needed to hear what came next. "I have to say, I'm impressed by your friends," James continued. "They've made this quite challenging. All the false trails, the misdirection. It's been entertaining. But I think it's time we ended this little game, don't you?" "What do you want?" "What I've wanted from the beginning. You, of course." James's voice carried a smile. "But I'm willing to make you an offer. Your mother's house. Do you remember the address?" Bella's heart stopped. "My mother? She's not home right now," James said casually. "But I have something of hers. Something I think you'll want to see. Check your email, Bella. Then we'll talk again." The line went dead. Bella's hands shook as she opened her email on her phone. Edward watched over her shoulder, his body rigid with tension. The message from an unknown sender contained a single video file. Bella clicked it, and her mother's face filled the small screen. "Bella?" Renee's voice was confused, uncertain. "Bella, where are you?" The image showed her mother at the inn, their old house in Phoenix, the living room Bella knew so well. "Mom, if you're getting this, call me. I'm at the house. I came back early from Jacksonville, and you're not here and I'm worried." The video ended. "No," Bella breathed. "No, no, no." Edward took the phone, watched the video again, his expression growing darker with each second. "This was sent today. The timestamp shows it's recent." Alice's voice cut through Bella's rising panic. "It's a trap. It has to be. James is manipulating you." "But what if it's not?" Bella turned to face them, tears streaming down her face. What if he really has her? What if she's there and he's going to hurt her because of me? Alice closed her eyes, searching futures for answers, but her face remained troubled. "I can't see clearly. James is making decisions too quickly. changing his plans. But I don't see your mother. That should mean something. Should mean, Bella repeated. But you're not certain. The phone rang again. James's voice was pleasant, conversational. Did you see the video? Charming woman, your mother. Very trusting. She let me write in when I said I was a friend of Charlie's. Don't hurt her, Bella said, her voice breaking. Please, I'll do whatever you want. I know you will. James sounded pleased. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave your vampire friends. You're going to come alone to a place I think you'll remember. Your old ballet studio. The one you took lessons at when you were younger. Do you remember it? Bella did remember. A small studio in a strip mall. Hardwood floors and wall-length mirrors. The smell of rosin and sweat. She'd taken classes there for 3 years before her lack of coordination made continuing pointless. I remember, she whispered. Good. Come alone, Bella. If I see any of the Cullens, if I sense them anywhere nearby, your mother dies. Do you understand? Yes. You have 1 hour. The call ended. Edward took the phone from her hand, his face a mask of controlled fury. You're not going. This is exactly what he wants. It's a trap designed to separate you from us. But what if he really has my mom? Bella's voice rose. What if she's there and I don't go and he kills her? How am I supposed to live with that? Alice was already on her phone, calling Carlisle, explaining the situation in rapid bursts. Jasper moved to the window, looking out at the parking lot, scanning for threats. Edward paced, his movements sharp and agitated, like a caged animal. We call the police, Edward said. We have them check on your mother. And tell them what? Bella demanded. That a vampire is threatening her. They'll think I'm insane. And if James sees police, he'll run. Or worse. The video could be old, Alice said, though her voice lacked conviction. James could have broken into the house weeks ago, recorded this, saved it for exactly this moment. But Bella was already moving, grabbing her jacket, her keys, planning her escape. Because the terrible truth was that she couldn't risk it, couldn't gamble her mother's life on the hope that James was bluffing. If there was even a chance Renee was in danger, Bella had to go. The bathroom had a window, she remembered. Small, but she was small too. While Edward argued strategy with Alice and Jasper spoke quietly on the phone to Carlisle, Bella slipped into the bathroom, locked the door, and climbed through the window into the Arizona heat. The rental car was still in the parking lot, keys in her jacket pocket from earlier. She ran for it, started the engine, pulled out of the lot before any of them could stop her. In the rearview mirror, she saw Edward appear at the hotel entrance, saw his face contort with anguish as he realized what she'd done. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop. The drive to the ballet studio took 20 minutes through familiar Phoenix streets. The city looked exactly as she remembered, all strip malls and palm trees and relentless sunshine. The studio was in the same location, tucked between a karate dojo and a hair salon, its windows covered with faded posters advertising classes and recitals. Bella parked and sat in the car for a long moment, gathering courage. This was probably the stupidest thing she'd ever done. Walking into a trap, unarmed and alone, to face a predator who'd been hunting for centuries. But her mother was in there, or might be in there, and that possibility was enough. The studio door was unlocked. Bella pushed it open and stepped inside. The space was exactly as she remembered. Hardwood floors scuffed from thousands of dancing feet. Mirrors covering one entire wall, reflecting the room back on itself. ballet bars mounted waist-high along the mirrors, and in the far corner, a television and VCR setup, ancient technology that probably didn't even work anymore. "Hello," Bella's voice echoed in the empty space. "Mom, I'm afraid she's not here, Bella." James stepped out from behind the door, moving so fast she barely saw him. His smile was pleasant, friendly even, as if they were meeting for coffee rather than a death trap. "Though I have to admire the performance. Your mother's quite the actress, even if she didn't know she was acting." He gestured toward the television, and Bella saw that it was on, paused on a frame from the video she'd seen. But now she recognized the image, recognized the angle and lighting. This wasn't recent footage. This was from an old home video, years old, from when she and Renee had lived in the house together. "You used old footage," Bella said, understanding flooding through her. "You never had her. Of course not." James moved closer, circling her like a shark. "What would I want with your mother? You're the prize, Bella. You and the delicious irony of taking you from Edward Cullen. That will sting him for decades." He pulled out a video camera, old but functional, and set it up on a tripod facing the center of the floor. "This is for Edward," James explained. "I want him to see what happens when someone takes prey from me. I want him to watch you die, over and over for eternity. It's the least I can do after he's made this hunt so entertaining." Bella backed away, her eyes scanning for exits, for weapons, for anything. But there was nothing. Just mirrors and space and a vampire between her and the door. James moved with casual speed, batting her toward the center of the room like a cat with a mouse. When she tried to run, he was there. When she dodged, he anticipated it. He was playing with her, she realized, drawing it out, making it last. The first blow sent her sprawling, her head cracking against the wooden floor. Stars burst behind her eyes, and she tasted blood. James laughed, delighted by her fragility. He grabbed her leg, twisted, and she felt something crack. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, whiting out her vision for a moment. She tried to crawl away, tried to reach the door. But James was there again, his hand in her hair, yanking her head back. "You smell even better up close," he said, his face near her neck. "I'm going to enjoy this." And then he bit her. Not to feed, not yet, just a wound. His teeth sank into her hand, venom burning through her veins like liquid fire. Bella screamed, the pain unlike anything she'd ever experienced. It felt like her blood was boiling, like her hand was being consumed from the inside. Through her agony, she heard a crash, the sound of breaking glass, and then Edward was there, materializing like an avenging angel, his face contorted with rage she'd never seen. He hit James with enough force to send the tracker flying across the room, smashing into the mirrors with a sound like an explosion. The fight that followed was too fast for Bella to track. Bodies moving at impossible speeds, the sound of impact like thunder, mirrors shattering into thousands of glittering fragments. Alice appeared, then Jasper, then Emmett, all of them converging on James with coordinated fury. Edward was at her side instantly, his hands gentle despite the battle raging behind him. "Bella, stay with me." His voice was desperate, terrified in a way she'd never heard. "The venom," she gasped. Her hand was on fire, the burning spreading up her arm. "It hurts." Edward's face went white. He understood what that meant. The venom in her system, converting her cells, beginning the transformation to vampire. Yet seconds to decide, seconds to act, before the change became irreversible. Behind them, Carlyle appeared, moving with purpose toward the fallen James. The other Cullens held the tracker down, and Carlyle did what was necessary. A lighter flickered. Flames began to spread, the smell of burning vampire filling the air. Edward looked at Bella's hand, at the bite mark pumping venom into her bloodstream, and made his choice. He brought her hand to his mouth and began to suck out the poison, his face contorted with effort and revulsion and desperate hope. The pain intensified, impossibly. Bella heard herself screaming, heard Edward's voice begging her to hold on, heard Carlyle giving instructions in that calm doctor's voice. And then the darkness rose up and claimed her, merciful and complete. Bella woke to whiteness. White ceiling tiles, white walls, white sheets tucked around her body. The steady beep of monitors, the antiseptic smell of hospital, the distant sound of voices in corridors. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was or why. Then the memories came flooding back. James, the ballet studio, the burning agony of venom in her veins. Her hand throbbed, but it was ordinary pain now, human pain. She turned her head and saw Edward sitting beside her bed. He looked terrible, his clothes rumpled, his hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes that shouldn't have been possible for a vampire. "You stayed," she whispered, her throat raw. Edward's eyes opened, golden and intense. "Of course I stayed." His hand found hers, careful of the IV line. "I thought I'd lost you." The door opened and Renee rushed in, her face streaked with tears. "When Charlie called and said you'd fallen downstairs and through a window, I thought..." She couldn't finish the sentence, gathering Bella into a careful hug. Bella let her mother hold her, guilt twisting in her chest. The cover story had been necessary, but the lies tasted bitter. Carlyle appeared in the doorway, professional and calm in his white coat. He examined Bella with practiced efficiency. Broken leg, several cracked ribs, concussion, lacerations, but healing well. You'll be in a cast for 6 weeks. Physical therapy after that. You were very lucky. Lucky wasn't the word Bella would have chosen, but she understood. She was alive, human. The venom had been stopped before the transformation became irreversible. Over the following days, visitors came and went. Charlie, awkward and worried. Renee, hovering constantly, asking questions Bella couldn't answer truthfully. The Cullens, coming in pairs, their presence a reminder of the world hidden beneath ordinary surfaces. Edward rarely left. He sat beside her bed through long hospital nights, holding her hand, watching her sleep as if afraid she might disappear. They talked when the hospital was quiet, about what had happened, about Edward's terror when he'd realized she'd left alone, about the moment he'd chosen to save her humanity. "I wanted to let you change," Edward admitted, his voice barely audible. "For one terrible moment I wanted it, to keep you forever. But I couldn't do that to you. Couldn't damn you to this existence. It wouldn't be damnation if I chose it," Bella said quietly. Edward's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you'd be giving up. The sunlight, the warmth, the ability to grow old, to die a natural death. I won't take those things from you. What if I don't want them? What if I want you more?" The conversation ended there, unresolved, the tension between them thick and complicated. Edward wanted her safe, wanted her human, wanted her to have a normal life. Bella wanted him, wanted forever, wanted to stop being the fragile human who needed constant protection. After a week, they released her. Renee wanted her to stay in Phoenix, but Bella insisted on returning to Forks. Charlie needed her, she said. School was almost over. The excuses were thin, but Renee eventually relented. The flight back was quiet. Edward sat beside her, attentive and distant at once, the weight of unspoken words between them. At the Forks airport, Charlie met them, his face showing relief and lingering worry. Life tried to return to normal, but normal had fundamentally changed. Bella moved through school on crutches, her cast covered in signatures from classmates. Mike hovered protectively. Jessica asked questions Bella deflected with practiced ease. Angela offered quiet support that required no explanations. Edward remained close but careful. He drove her to school, walked her to classes, sat with her at lunch. But there was a guardedness to him now, a distance he maintained, as if afraid getting too close might endanger her again. The Cullens accepted her more fully now. She'd proven she could keep their secret, could survive their world, could love Edward despite knowing what he was. Even Rosalie's hostility had softened, though she remained distant. But the question between Bella and Edward remained unanswered. She wanted transformation, wanted eternity, wanted to stop being the weak link in his immortal existence. He wanted her to live, to experience humanity fully, to have choices he'd never had. The impasse seemed insurmountable. Spring turned towards summer. Bella's leg healed slowly, the cast eventually removed. Physical therapy teaching her to walk without limping. The scars remained, pale lines on her hand, where James had bitten her, a permanent reminder of how close she'd come to becoming something other than human. And through it all, Edward stayed. Despite his reservations, despite his fear for her safety, despite his belief that she deserved better, he stayed because leaving her was impossible, because the bond between them had grown too strong to sever. They existed in a strange twilight space, together but incomplete, loving but unresolved, human and vampire, mortal and eternal, loving across a divide that couldn't be crossed without sacrifice. For now, it was enough. But both of them knew, though neither said it aloud, that eventually a choice would have to be made. Eventually, the twilight would end, and they would have to choose either dawn or darkness. There was no middle ground, no compromise that would satisfy the hunger for forever that had taken root in Bella's heart. But that choice could wait. For now, they had this moment, this fragile peace, this love that defied reason and common sense. And for now, impossibly, it was enough. And so, Bella Swan chose her path, though the destination remained uncertain. In Edward Cullen, she found something beyond human love, something eternal, dangerous, and beautiful. The questions remained unanswered. Would she become like him, surrendering her humanity for immortality? Would their love survive the danger that seemed to follow them? Could a human girl and a vampire truly build a life together? But for now, in this moment, they had each other. Edward had found in Bella something he'd searched for across 9 decades, a reason to be. And Bella had found something she'd never expected, a place where she belonged, even if that place was beside someone who wasn't entirely of this world. The forests of Forks held their secret still. The Cullens remained, golden-eyed and beautiful, playing at being human. And Bella walked between 2 worlds, the ordinary and the impossible, the mortal and the eternal. Like Twilight itself, she existed in the space between, caught in that liminal moment where day meets night, where one life ends and another might begin. This was not an ending. This was only the beginning of forever.